Try to imagine something that has never been thought of before. If you have a book in your hand, consider whether it is an individual book, a large print book, or an illustrated book. In fact, you can imagine books of all kinds. But in a world where the concept of a book itself does not exist, how can one think of a book? Or try to imagine a day without time. More precisely, a day where time is not divided into regular segments. Nowadays, people seem to live within time. They wake up at a specific hour, go to work or school at another hour, eat at certain times, and sleep at specified hours. Our lives take shape as if molded by the rotation speed of the clock. However, once upon a time, people did not live like this. Time was not yet a coined word for them. Both time and writing, along with many things in our daily lives, were invented over 5,000 years ago by the Sumerians in ancient Mesopotamia. Before that, a day began with the sunrise and ended with the sunset. What the Sumerians invented was not limited to writing and time. The 360-degree circle geometry, wheeled vehicles, children's toys, taxes, advanced irrigation techniques, dentistry, architecture, and many developments in urban and agricultural areas were just a part of what the Sumerians brought into our lives. What makes all of this even more interesting is a notable historical fact about the Sumerians. Until just a century ago, we knew nothing about the existence of the Sumerians in ancient times. Archaeologists who started excavating in Mesopotamia about 100 years ago were actually looking for the Assyrians and Babylonians. They had considerable information about these peoples and civilizations from Greek and Hebrew sources, but they had no idea about the Sumerians. The name Sumer had been erased from human minds and memories for over 2,000 years. Yet today, the Sumerians are known as one of the most recognized peoples of ancient times. Through their own statues scattered in museums worldwide and archaeological studies conducted in the region, we know how they looked, how they lived, and what they believed in. Moreover, thousands of Sumerian tablets, containing commercial, legal, and administrative documents, provide us with information about their laws. Now, based on the data we have, we can begin to say something about Sumerian history. According to most historians, the Sumerians are a Western Asian people who permanently settled in the region between 5500 and 4000 BC. Sumerian language expert Samuel Noah Kramer writes in his book, "History begins at Sumer, that Sumerian history began with a village culture, a mixture of migrating nomads from Iran and the Semites. The amalgamation of these two peoples and cultures eventually gave rise to the first city-states in southern Mesopotamia. We see periods of intense struggles among these city-states to dominate the region. In these struggles, the Semites often emerged victorious, leading Mesopotamians to expand to other regions, establishing one of the first major empires in the Near East. This empire eventually extended to the plains of western Iran, known as the region of Elam. The Mesopotamian Empire, in the end, encountered primitive and nomadic Sumerians believed to have come from the Caspian Sea or the Caucasus. Mesopotamians resisted at all costs against the Sumerians, who initially appeared technologically and culturally advanced. However, over time, the Sumerians, who became familiar with Mesopotamian culture as captives or mercenaries, learned the necessary military technology and applied it to their own culture. They succeeded in overcoming the declining Mesopotamian state, first conquering the western lands of Iran and later taking control of northern Mesopotamia, establishing the first Sumerian state in the conquered region. We know that the Sumerians had at least 12 city-states in the region between 3300 and 3000 BC. During this period, cities were generally surrounded by walls, each city had its own deity, and each city had at least one temple. Now that we have outlined how the Sumerians emerged on the historical stage, let's take a look at what they changed in world history. First and foremost, we need to discuss the Sumerians' belief structure because the origins of religious beliefs trace back to them. Before the construction of cities, the Sumerians began building large temples. The individuals who held power during this period were the chief priests in these temples, and it was believed that they communicated directly with the gods. In other words, priests represented the connection between gods and society. However, about 1,000 years after the emergence of the first temples, this tradition began to undergo a transformation. Power began to shift from the priests in the temples to the kings residing in the palaces. Kings likely emerged as military leaders and wealthy landowners. They gradually took on the spiritual duties that priests had held, thus obtaining a semi-priestly role at the top of Sumerian society. In this way, the world's first kings also emerged in history. So, how do we know all of this? The most important aspect of the Sumerians is that they left behind written tablets that allow us to learn these details. The invention of writing was truly one of the most significant developments in world history. Today, it can only be compared to advancements in artificial intelligence or space exploration. This is because through writing, humanity learned to transmit knowledge and experience to future generations. Additionally, writing greatly facilitated certain tasks, initially emerging for the purpose of keeping commercial records. Many of the Sumerian tablets are filled with information about who exchanged what through barter, and details such as who gave how many sheep in exchange for how many cows. In addition, Sumerian clay tablets dedicated a significant amount of space to the government's financial records. In ancient Sumer, paper had not yet been invented, so people had to find alternative ways to document information in writing. The material of choice for the Sumerians was clay. The writing process involved using a stiff reed pen on moist clay, creating a record that could endure for a long time once the clay dried. However, translating these tablets left behind by the Sumerians is challenging for modern archaeologists. This is due to the complexity of the Sumerian script, which consists of more than 700 different symbols, and the meanings and shapes of these symbols varied among different cities and regions. Additionally, the time period during which the writing was produced is crucial, as the meanings of symbols underwent various changes over centuries. The invention of writing led to significant changes in the social life of humans. Writing was not a skill everyone possessed, leading to the emergence of a written social class distinction. This division between those who could write and those who could not persisted from the time of the Sumerians. For example, in the Middle Ages, the ability to read and write, both in the East and the West, was a prerequisite for individuals to serve in the palace. At this point, it is essential to evaluate why so many developments occurred during the Sumerian period. For something to emerge or happen in history, certain conditions before that event must have been met. During that time, these conditions were related to agricultural developments and the establishment of the first cities. For instance, the development of mathematics and geometry in Mesopotamia and Egypt was closely tied to calculating river floods and sustaining agricultural activities. The new cities established in fertile regions allowed for the creation of new roads and trade networks. The growth of trade suggested that the state should also financially benefit from it, leading the Sumerians to invent something new: taxes. Now, what was needed to keep tax records? Of course, writing. Recording the given and received goods, storing financial records became mandatory, and this could only be achieved through writing. This is how civilization was step by step constructed by the Sumerians. Civilization, in essence, was a sum of things people needed. The Sumerians laid the foundation for so many things used in the daily lives of people today that it is impossible to imagine a world without them. Therefore, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that the Sumerians, who lived thousands of years ago, shaped the world we live in today. Just as it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that we shape the future with some of the work we do today. Thank you very much for watching the video until the end. If you like and subscribe to the video, you will make me very happy. Thank you again.